For this blanket, I used Bernat Forever Fleece super bulky 6-weight yarn in the color Juniper and 10mm crochet hook. Okay, let's get started on this Juniper Berry Blanket. This is the color Juniper. It's kind of a dusty purple, a little bit of a gray tone in it. Color of a juniper berry. And we're using a berry stitch for part of it. So let's go into the second chain. Not this one, but this one. And I like to go in the back bump, turn it over and find that horizontal bar. Go through that back bump. These are going to be all single crochet. You can chain any even number, multiple of 2. Let's find that next chain, turn it over, find your back bump, another single crochet. I'm doing a sample size of 20 chains. Make your chains nice and loose. I used a 10mm crochet hook for my super bulky 6-weight yarn. There's my back bump. Now on my blanket, I did an initial chain of 70, and it ended up being 35 inches. Oops, I meant 37 wide before the border and 50 inches long before the border. My border, I made it 3 inches. And if you want to make it smaller at 2 inches, I'll tell you how when we get there. It will take 1 skein to do the border. I was hoping to get away with 1 skein for the border. The blanket took 5 skeins, and then a little bit more than 1. I had to get some more yarn because I was almost finished with it before I realized I didn't have enough. So if you want to, as I said, I'll give you the option to make a 2-inch border. Anyway, by the time all was said and done, it was 43 inches wide because my border added 3 inches on each edge, and 56 inches long. A really nice size for a throw. Have over your chair or your couch or your bed. Just wrap up in it. Now on this very last chain, instead of going in that back bump, I like to just come down here, go below these 2, and it helps to keep that kind of straight. Okay, chain 1, turn, and there's your first row. As I said, you can make it any width, any length you want, but if you want to make it with the 5 skeins for the blanket, and then 1 skein for the border, you can follow my pattern. That would be 70. Now you're going to end up, no matter what number of chains you used, as long as it was an even number, now you're going to end up with 1 less stitch. So I had 20 chains, and now I have 19 stitches. On my blanket, I have 70 chains, and I have 69 stitches. And it will be that way all the way along. You'll have the same number of stitches. All right, let me look at my next. And we're going to start with our berry stitch row. Go into that very first stitch there with a single crochet, pull through, there's your 2 loops, and pull through. Now we're going to do the berry stitch. It's really easy. Yarn over, go through, pull through, chain 1. Basically you pull through that first loop, but I like to say chain 1. I don't know why, it just helps me. Yarn over, go in. You should now have 5 loops on your hook. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yarn over and pull through all of those. And the berry is going to show up on the opposite side. In the next stitch, you're going to do a single crochet, And in the next stitch, yarn over, we're going to do another berry stitch. Pull that yarn through, chain 1, yarn over, go in, pull through all 5 of those loops. As long as you make sure that you're alternating, it will come out right. You'll start with a single crochet and you'll end with a single crochet. So I had a berry and a single. You can tell too because the berry stitch is really thick and the single stitch just has a little V. The single crochet. All right, now back to the berry. Chain 1, yarn over, bring it through. Make sure you have 5 loops and pull through. It'll make it easier on yourself if you keep these kind of loose. Makes it easier to pull through. And the next one's a single, and the next one is a berry stitch. And oops, see, I made that a little tight. Let me loosen that up. Yarn over, go through. Keep that one loose too. I think that's where I went wrong. Yarn over, go through. I should have 5 loops. I do, and it should be easier this time, yes. So make sure when you do that chain that you keep it on the loose side. All right, so work this pattern all the way to the end of your row, and as I said, you'll end up with a single crochet at the end, and this is what it's going to look like on the other side. And I will join you at the end of my sample row and the end of your row. Okay, I'm at the end of row 2. Remember, row 1 was simply single crochets. This is the berry stitch row. Row 2, then the pattern will be a repeat of rows 2 through 5. I'm on the very last stitch. I just want to show you something here that I like to do. Come through this chain here. It helps to keep the edges even, which is nice when you're making a border, or if you choose not to make a border, your edges are pretty even. All right, and chain 1, and let's turn. There's your berry stitch. Isn't that cute? It's really cushy too. This is nice, thick, soft yarn. If you've seen some of my blankets, I tend to use the Bernat Forever Fleece over and over again. I just love it. I mean, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I love it. All right, so the next 3 rows, 3, 4, 5. Rows 3, 4, 5 are going to be all half double herringbone, half double crochet. So pull through there. Take that very first loop, pull it through the second loop. You'll have 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, and pull through those 2. And what this does is it brings it over at a little bit of an angle. This is one of my favorite stitches. You'll see it in a lot of my blankets. Yarn over, go through the next stitch, pull that yarn through. You have 3 loops on your hook. Keep them nice and even. Pull that first loop through the second loop, yarn over, and pull through the last 2. And you're going to do this all the way down the row. Yarn over, go into that stitch, pull that first loop through the second loop, yarn over, and pull through the last 2. The stitches are easy to see. Just make sure you're going through both front and back loop all the way down. Yarn over. It's just the herringbone half double crochet. Just keeps it a little interesting. Since this is all one color, it also helps to keep it from getting too boring if you're doing the same thing over and over again. Sometimes if I want to make a really fast blanket, I don't mind using the same stitch in the same color. But I am easily bored, so sometimes I find that if it's too boring, I'll put it away for a while. All right, so continue on at the end of this row. See how pretty that is? At the end of this row, chain 1, turn, and come back again with herringbone half double crochet at the end of that row. This is 3. At the end of row 4, chain 1, and come back on row 5 with herringbone half double crochet. I will meet you at the end of row 5. Row 2, I wanted to show you in the very last stitch, go into that stitch, and then this chain from the previous row. Find that. Pull up, complete your herringbone half double crochet, chain 1 and turn. This is just row 3. I think I said row 2. Row 3. 1, 2, 3. Row 4 just is the same thing. Go in that very first stitch, herringbone half double crochet all the way across. I just wanted to show you that, to pull that in to keep this even. You don't have to. It's not absolutely necessary. It just kind of helps keep that edge even. I'm at the end of row 5. Remember, row 1 was single crochet. Row 2 is the berry stitch. 3, 4, and 5 are the herringbone half double crochet. When you go one way, they kind of angle, and it's the opposite on the other side. But you'll be able to tell that you have 3 rows. There's 1, this one's 2 with that line there, and then 3. And then you know you're going to move on to do another berry row stitch, which is 2. So 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you're going to repeat 2, 3, 4, 5. So here's my last stitch. And I like to come through that one loop. Keep my loop up nice and even. And finish off chain 1 and flip. Right, let's see. Let's see if I can't get that in focus a little bit better. I think it's trying to focus in on my black desk here. All right, so we're back to the berry stitch. This very first stitch is a single crochet. We're just repeating row 2. And then the berry stitch. Yarn over, go through, chain 1, yarn over, go through that stitch, pull through. You have 5 loops on your hook. Pull through all 5. Single crochet in the next. It's again just alternating single crochet, berry stitch, yarn over, go in that very next stitch. Make sure you're going in under both front and back loop. Chain 1, yarn over, go back into that same stitch, 5 loops on your hook, and a single crochet in the next. Let me show you what that looks like. This is your pattern. Berry stitch, half double crochet, or herringbone half double crochet, herringbone half double crochet, 3 rows, and then another berry stitch row. And this is what it looks like on the back. It's still very pretty on the back. It just doesn't have the berry bumps. All right, well, continue on until it's as long as you like. I was able to get use 5 skeins to get it to 50 inches, which tells you on mine that each skein made up about 10 inches of the blanket. If you want to make it bigger, get more skeins. I did want to show you, if you run out of yarn, which you're probably going to do, in the middle, sorry, I need to sneeze. There, I got it. If you run out of yarn in the middle of the row, a couple of things you can do. I'm sure you probably already know these things. You can, let's see, go 1, 2 around, hold this up, And then on with this end, 1, 2, around. Got both my ends. I know it just looks twisty. And pull tight. Pull on this one, pull on this one, pull tight, and just cut here. Or cut these ends, obviously. Pull it tight, make sure you're not losing it. All right, and you can just continue on, and that knot will hide. Or leave yourself a few inches. Grab your next yarn, and about the same amount, just a few inches. And you're going to loop like that. Okay? With this one, you're just going to continue your pattern, but you're going to bring both of these strands in. So my next stitch is a single crochet. And yes, it's going to be thick, but it's not going to make much of a difference. Now when you get to this one, you can drop this piece and just pull it behind. Now I'm doing the berry stitch. Chain 1. See how I have this one behind? Now that was my double strand, so that just counts as one loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then another single. Now here's what I like to do after I've done a couple of stitches. Go ahead and bring that tail through. There you go. This is how it looks on the other side. It's just fine and dandy. And when you're coming back on this row, if you want to, you can do the same thing. Run it through as a loop, or just crochet right over that. It's not going anywhere. It's in there. That is how I joined my yarn for this blanket. It doesn't, just depends what kind of yarn you're using. I don't think it works as well for the really thin yarn, but for this yarn it works very, very well. Okay, so continue on until your blanket is as long as you like. The last row. I want to show you real very quickly, and I should have done this on camera. I pulled the stitch out just to show you where I joined the yarn. It's not going anywhere. You're not going to lose your blanket. Okay? All right, I'll meet you when we're getting to our final row. All right, so your next to the last row will be your berry stitch row. You're going to chain 1 and turn. I already did that. That was my berry stitch row. Chain 1 and turn. And you're simply going to go in that first stitch with a single crochet in each stitch across, just like you did on your very first row. Just a row of all single crochet. And that's going to make it really easy to work your border in. I did single crochet back loop only border, ribbed border, with an 8mm crochet hook, and we'll get to that in just a minute. Again, this is just a sample size. Now when I made my border, I made it 3 inches, so it added 6 inches to each side. Sometimes you have to turn this and find your stitch. It's not this, it's this. Oops. right there. Okay. So I made mine at 3 inches, the border. And I was hoping that one skein would get me through because I only wanted to use 6 skeins. These come in packs of 2, and I really just wanted to keep it at 2 skeins. However, I miscalculated. I was very close to being finished. Um, I did have several more rows I needed to complete the border, so I had to get more yarn. If you want to make sure that you have enough and you're making it the same size as this, um, you can make a 2-inch border. Let me finish this out here. Um, Instead of making a chain of 8, make a chain of 6. And other than that, do everything exactly the same. All right, that's the last single crochet of my last row. And see how they look the same? Ta-da! Okay, I'm ready to start the border, and I'm going to switch over to an 8mm crochet hook. That was the end of my single crochet row, the very last row. I'm going to turn this way because we're going to start going down the edge with the first part of our border. I'm going to chain 8. As I said, if you want to make a smaller border, chain 6, but do everything the same. You'll end up with 5 single crochets going up and down instead of 7 like I'm going to be doing. So I'm going to chain 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And just like our very first row, I'm going to work into the back bump of the second chain from the hook. And that's why it gives me 7 instead of 8. So single crochets, back bump only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I apologize for this dark background. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 is back here. It can sometimes be difficult to find that last stitch. A lot of times you have to pull this around and find it. Okay, now you're going to skip the stitch that your chain is coming out of, or whatever row you're working on, whatever stitch that's coming out of, skip it. Go to the next one. I have found going down the side that the first one is going to be kind of a thick stitch. We're going to do a slip stitch. Just a slip stitch, just pull through that loop. And you're going to do another one. The second one is this thinner, just little 2 loops there. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but that's how it worked for me. It's just at the end of the row. And so skip what's coming out of here, next stitch, slip stitch, and the next stitch, slip stitch. So it's 2 slip stitches. Boy, that's hard to say. Now, I do a lot of counting because I can't tell just by looking which one I want to go into. So this is your first stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's where I want to go. And of course, if you're making a smaller border, you would do 5. Go into the back loop only. And it's going to be single crochet all the way up. Keep it kind of loose. 1, 2. I did so much counting. And I always do when I make this border. I'm sure some people can tell just by looking at it, but I can't. I have to count. And here's my last stitch. Now the same as the end of my rows, I like to go into that back and then the chain. Just that one loop of the chain from the previous row with a single crochet. Again, keep it, kind of loose. Chain one. Don't forget your chain one. Turn. And now we're coming back down. Make sure you're going this way. Don't get confused and go that way. All right. Now, very important. Make sure you're going in that very first. It's easy to skip over that one, but then your stitch count won't come out right. It's this very first one. Back loop only. Right there. Single crochet all the way down. You can keep it kind of loose. When you use this as a waistband or a wristband, you want it to be a little tighter up here so it kind of pulls it in. But for the blanket, you want it to just stay kind of loose. We just like that, or I do. Shouldn't speak for you. Just the look of a cozy sweater. I like this border for a blanket as well. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry for all the chatter. I know some people don't like that. 6. Back loop only still. Now see how it's easy to lose that one? You have to pull it around, just like the very first one. Sometimes it's pretty tight. Let me get in there, and that's my 7. Now, this can get confusing, but pull on it. That's the stitch you want to skip. So I'm just going to go into this bunch of stitches here at the end of the row, slip stitch, and there's the little 2 loops. Slip stitch. Excuse me, turn. You can see how you want to keep it a little on the loose side. You could continue to use a 10mm hook if you want this even looser and chunkier. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I want to make sure that I don't go down here. 7. Back loop only. Keep this one kind of loose. If you go too tight here, that's why it's really hard to find it. Coming back down. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and grab that chain from the previous row. Pull it out even. Keeps it from getting too tight. And chain 1. And let's flip it. You can just go back and forth, back and forth. Continue on until you get to the corner, and I will meet you at the corner, and we'll talk about how to start the next row of your border. Okay, I'm reaching my corner. To make this work out properly, you want to come back up and start your next row of border here. So make sure you come back up. If you don't have 2 stitches left, just do 1. If you have 3 stitches left, do 3. Because you need to make sure that this edge is even with this edge. So I came out of this stitch, so I'm going to go into this one. Slip stitch. And this one. Get that tail under there. That's my initial chain. Hang on. I want to get that in there. Now, when I come back up this row, it should make it even with this edge. I'm going to flip it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Whoops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I was looking at the monitor. And back loop only, single crochet all the way up. You're actually going to be working into this edge. Find your little chain there. Pull it even. You can see how that edge looks on this side and on that side. Now, instead of coming back down again, we're nice and even. I already did a chain one, so I'm going to start over just like I did down here with my chain of 8, or you can do a chain of 6 if you're making a 2-inch border. See how big this border is? You could shrink that down and it would be fine. I just wanted it big and chunky. Okay, so that was the end of the row. I flipped it. I had already chained one, but I took it out. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Keep your chains loose. You know what? Let me start over. It does work better if I chain one and then flip it. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Starting over again into the second chain, back bump only, single crochet, back bump only, single crochet. 1, 2, 3. Keep it loose. 4. Talking to myself now. 5, 6. I talk to myself a lot as I'm crocheting. Do you do that? And turn it over. And 7. Okay. We're going to be going down this row. You're actually going to be working into this part of your border. So again, skip this stitch that your row is coming out of. We're going to go into the back loop only here. 1. Oops. So sorry. Slip stitch, slip stitch, flip it. See how we're now going this way? I'll show you over here. Now we're working this way. And it's the same thing. Find your 7 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is right here. Back loop only. That's why I got messed up with the slip stitches. Back loop only. Single crochet all the way up. And here is 7. Back loop. And the chain at the top. And you can see why I want to pull this loop even, because I want to keep that edge even. I'm not making a waistband or a wristband. I don't want it to be tighter. Bottom. Chain 1. Flip. We are now going this way. Okay. Again, always make sure that you're finding that very first stitch. You'll figure it out soon enough when you don't have enough stitches. 1, 2, 3. I just want to carry you over to the body of the blanket. 5, 6, and here's my 7. I have to flip it to find it. It's right there. And you can see why I'm going in the back loop coming down only until I get to the body of the blanket. It's just to keep this edge the same. Okay, so skip this stitch, go into the back loop only here, only as long as we're on that border row. 1 slip stitch, 2 slip stitch. Come on. slip stitch. I really need to quit looking at the monitor. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Back loop only. Single crochet all the way up to the top. I think it makes more sense in the video than it does describing it in the written pattern. Remember, all my patterns are free on www.i-crochet.com. No ads, because I don't like ads. I mean, you have them on YouTube, but you have to. Can't get away without it. But if you watch my ads, it helps me make money for yarn. All right, there's the top. Okay, come back down. Again, I just want to show you. You can fast forward this. Just want to show you where we end up switching over to the body of the blanket. Right now we're working into the side of the border. And there's that stitch hiding. Don't go there. Back loop only, because we're still, as long as we're still on that border, I want to go in the back loop. Slip stitch, one more back loop. And then we're going to be working into the body. Slip stitch. Flip. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Keep it loose. It'll help you in the long run, and it'll keep it from being too tight. Sorry for the extreme close-up of my hands. It's the only way I can get the stitches. Bring that up. Chain 1, find your first stitch. Right there. Back loop only. As I said, you can fast forward through all this. It's going to be exactly the same when you get to your next corner. You can do the same thing. All right, where am I? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's that back loop hiding there. All right, that was my last back loop. We're going to start working. We're working into that edge there. We're going to start working into all our single crochets. Let's see, actually, that one's pretty tight. You know what, I'm just, hang on. Oh, that was my tail. That's what's causing that problem. Okay. So don't go into that stitch. Go into the next one. Slip stitch. And now it's going to get easier. Slip stitch. All right, continue on. It's going to be really easy now because these stitches are so easy to find. When you get to your next corner, you're going to do exactly the same thing. You're going to come up and then make your chain and start your new edge of your border. And I will meet you back here at the very, very end where we join. And actually all that is you're going to finish off. Your border will end right here, but I'll meet you there. Okay, I've come all the way around. This is my original chain and back loop only single crochet down and up. So that was the very beginning of my border. I am now working into the back loop only of that initial chain there. So it's just the same thing. I'm going with my 7 single crochet, back loop only down. You might have a smaller number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 is hiding. Back loop only, slip stitch, back loop only, slip stitch. Ba-doop, ba-doop, flip. Same, back loop only, single crochet all the way up. And into that chain, bring it out, chain 1, turn, back loop only all the way down. Make sure you're going into that back loop only. That's what makes the ribbing, that rib stitch. And I have 2 left. 1, 2. My last row will end up here, and it will make me even with my beginning edge of my border. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Back loop only as always, single crochet all the way up. And this will be the end of your blanket. Same. Make sure it's even. It is. And then you turn the corner, and then you turn the corner, and it was the same down here. See how that makes it look like a cozy sweater? Oof, is this ever cushy? Okay, now you just simply fasten off. Chain 1, pull it through, tighten it up, and I don't have a needle right here, but just weave it back and forth, either up here or go back down, go in and out of your stitches here, and it will hide. Go down and up. Rule of thumb seems to be 3 times is the charm. Let me know how you like this. This is the back side. Oh, it is so soft. I wish you could feel this. Well, you can if you buy the yarn. Let me know if you made it in this color or some other yarn. I love this so much that I think I might make a sweater out of this pattern. That would make a lovely cozy winter sweater. All right. Well, if you liked it, please give me a thumbs up. Thank you for subscribing if you have. If you haven't, please do. It helps my channel, which helps me maybe get some more yarn, make another project. I'm already working on another one. And you can find the free written pattern at www.i-crochet.com. Thanks so much.